Hello and welcome back everyone, this is Doc at Padama, and this time we're going to discuss the different variables used in research writing, specifically the independent and dependent variables. How are they defined and how are they different from each other? What is the role and characteristic of an independent variable as well as a dependent variable? Okay, so let's start with the definition of a variable in research. So by definition, variables are things that you can measure, manipulate, control in statistics and in research. Okay, again, because of this particular definition wherein variables are measurable, manipulable, and controllable, most of the time, the type of research that uses variables are quantitative research. Okay, so we have already established that particular and crucial part of the relationship of variable with this method of research. Okay, variables are things that you can measure, manipulate, and control in statistics and in research. To continue, all studies analyze variables, which can describe or can take in the form of variable may be in the form of the following: a person, a place, a thing, or idea. Okay? So again, take note because this will be very crucial when identifying the different variables in your research, specifically in your research title. So most of the time, you are asked to identify the independent and dependent variable in your research title. So in order to do that, you have to establish a clear idea on what these variables are and their characteristic. To continue, every experiment has at least two variables. Okay? An independent variable and a dependent variable. The independent variable, by an overview or a general idea, the independent variable is what you are testing. Usually, the independent variable refers to the issue that you are investigating. Okay? So the issue that you are investigating or testing is referred to as the independent variable. Okay, there are other characteristics of an independent variable aside from what we have mentioned. On the other hand, dependent variable is the result. Aside from the result, it is what is affected by the independent variable. Okay? So, what is the issue being investigated is identified as the independent variable, while the variable that is affected by the issue is what we call the dependent variable. The dependent variable. Okay, so let's put it here. Okay, so again, this is an overview or a general idea regarding the difference between IV and DV, independent variable and dependent variable. Okay, now to continue. In a more detailed definition and characteristic of independent variable, this is defined as a singular characteristic that other variables, because there are more variables other than independent and dependent variables that are used in research. But we are not going to comprehensively discuss them in this video, but I am going to present them later on. That other variables and in your experiment cannot change, meaning the independent variable is constant. Okay? From its characteristic of being independent, it is constant and other variables cannot affect the independent variable. So, let us make that clear. Okay? Independent variables can, on the other hand, change other variables. independent variable is constant and cannot be changed by other variable, but it can change or have an effect on other variables, specifically dependent variables. In studies, researchers often try to find out whether an independent variable causes other variables like dependent variable to change, and if it does causes it to change, in what way. In this particular statement, in this last sentence, usually the research title that you will see with this particular statement starts with the term effects. The effects of the independent variable to the dependent variable. Okay? So again, the independent variable is the issue at hand, while the dependent variable is the one being affected. So this is where the dependent variable, this is where you will find the result of the effect of the independent variable in the dependent variable. Okay, so basically this is the characteristic of what we call an independent variable. While on the other hand, dependent variables, a dependent variable relies on and can be changed by other components referring to variables. Again, a dependent variable can be changed by other variables. Example of this is a grade on an exam. An exam grade is defined as a dependent variable. Why? The grade on an exam will depend on independent variables or variables that affect the grade. And these are the following. So, in this example, one of these variables may be the duration of the sleep, or how much sleep was taken by the student, and another variable is the duration or the frequency of this one, how long the student studied for the exam. So these are the variables that may affect the dependent variable, which is the grade of the student. So this is one variable, and the other variable is how long the student studied. Okay, independent variables, to continue, can influence dependent variables. Independent variables usually influence dependent variables. But again, as I mentioned earlier, dependent variables cannot influence independent variables. When analyzing relationships between study objects, researchers often try to determine what makes the dependent variable change and how. So this is the same as the last statement on the other paragraph that we mentioned earlier. So this is usually a research that investigates the effect of the independent variable to the dependent variable, and how did it affect the variable. If it affected the dependent variable, how did it affect? Okay, so this is usually the content of that particular investigation. Now, as again I mentioned earlier, aside from the IVDV, there are other variables that are present and used in studies. So some of them are the following. You have an intervening variable, moderating variable, control variable, extraneous, quantitative, pardon for the typographical error, and then under quantitative you have discrete and continuous, and then you have qualitative. Under qualitative you have binary, nominal, and ordinal, and then you have confounding variables and composite variables. I will try to make a separate video on these particular variables, but right now we are going to focus on these two variables because this is the most frequent question that I get asked during my YouTube videos, the difference between these two variables and how can they be identified in a research title. If you are already familiar with the characteristics of these variables, the dependent and independent variable, you will easily identify the variables in your research title and eventually formulate your own research title. Again, I have a video that discusses and presents a template in formulating a research title. This is available for free in my YouTube channel at Doc Padama. And please help my YouTube channel by clicking subscribe. There will be an icon presented at the lower right side of your screen. And on the left side of your screen, you will see recommended videos that can help you in writing your research paper. So thank you very much, everyone. And I hope you were able to get something from our discussion this day. Stay safe and God bless. See you on the next video. Bye.